Yo, what's up, y'all? What's up, y'all? What is going on? What's up, you guys in the comment section? What's up, Drummond? What's up, Duke Odin? What's up, Racing Angel? What's happening with you? All right, I'll wait a moment and let a few more people join up, man. Um, and this is gonna be a really short live. We all know why we're here. We just saw the Terrence Bud Crawford. I don't want his live on IG on Instagram. Okay, he told us a few hours ago on Twitter that he was going to go live on Instagram, all right, and address this whole situation or address the truth, or at least his truth. That's what people like to say, the truth. There's only one truth. There's only one truth, but I guess he wanted to address his truth. I guess his story, his side of the story. All right. I'll tell you this though. This is not this is not what it you guys think it's gonna be. All right, because I'm going to go back to a lot of things that I said in previous videos about this fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Bud Crawford, and why that fight didn't happen. All right. As disappointed as I am about the fight not happening, uh, I still understand that it had to do with business, right? And my disappointment really was, I made a video basically telling you guys that the slander that Terrence Bud Crawford is receiving is just not warranted, because no one knows enough to go that hard on him the way that they've been going. All right. Um, but I was happy to hear his side of the story because he gave us some more details, and he basically just went into more detail about what was already reported. To be honest, he honestly just went into detail about what was previously reported. But there's a few things that I did pick up on what he was saying. Um, there's things that I agree with. There's things that I might not really totally agree with. I am a big Bud fan. I'm more of a Bud fan than a Spence fan. Most of y'all know that already. But at no point in this negotiation period this year did I ever say that it was Spence's fault, or even came to that conclusion before all of this like fell apart, saying that it was Spence fault. I never at one point thought it would be either one of the four. I thought that from jump that Spence was going to keep it PBC until he captured all those belts. All right. And I'm basing that on what he said from jump when they had that confrontation back like 3-4 years ago. And then I also said that I believe Bud really wants to fight. He wanted to fight then, but at the end of the day, he was with Top Rank, and Top Rank fighters are not going to be the priority for PBC fighters if they have the majority of the stable of the welterweights. I said that from jump because I already know how the business work. I already know the game. If you have the majority of the top named fighters under your stable, you're going to keep it in-house first. And I always go back to history when I say that. I say it all the time, because that's something that's been proven. Whether you're with Matchroom, Golden Boy, whoever you're with, Top Rank, you're going to go and keep it in-house first. If your fighters are there, you're going to work it out with your own fighters because you're going to keep the money in-house before you go elsewhere. But this is obviously a fight that's bigger enough to cross different platforms to make. It's an important fight. These are the two of the best fighters of this current generation. So you have to make the fight. But my major issue outside of the fight not happening, of course, that's the biggest issue, was the slander that Terrence Crawford was receiving without the information. These people, look at tonight. Look at tonight. If you guys were on social media tonight, if you saw, and I said this on Twitter, I saw it on Twitter, Terrence Crawford made an announcement basically saying that, yo, I'm going to be on IG Live later at 10 p.m. Eastern. Be on there. I'll be on there. Check me out. If you read the comments, you have Spence fanboys, right? I don't even like saying that because I think it's so corny, but because I don't feel like when you're a fanboy, I don't feel like you're really a fan of the sport. You kind of just a fan of either that specific fighter and nothing else, or you're a fan of a group, right? That are just on here for different shit, right? That's what I believe. So you have people on there that is saying to him and responding to him, yo, you don't even need to tell your story. We already know what's up. It's all cap. Yada, yada, yada. Like, you don't even want to hear his side. What did I say in my video? I said in my video, yo, I would like to hear from Bud. I want to hear his side of the story. I want to hear why a fight of this magnitude failed. Why did you fail to make it? I know what Michael Coppinger said, you know, or Jake Donovan, or whoever made Dan Raphael. I know what they said, right? I know what they said. And then I know what the content creators are saying. But unfortunately, the content creators are on here, you know what I'm saying? You know how it is. There's some people that's completely biased. So they're just going to run with, you know what I'm saying, whoever they feel, who they like or whatever, whoever they support more because of bias, which is normal. But there's people that I feel like are just getting paid to say whatever they're saying. You know, I mean, look at this past weekend, right? This past weekend, we had like, what, 3 or 4 boxing cards? And certain people just spent the whole weekend talking about Terrence Bud Crawford and Errol Spence. They just ignoring all the other fights that's going on. Those are not boxing fans at the end of the day. They're not. Let's just keep it all the way real. It is what it is. Not boxing fans. Some of them are biased, and some of them are probably just straight up getting paid to say whatever they saying. My point from jump was I want to hear from Bud Crawford. Now, normally, I won't tell you. I've never told you, yo, I need to hear a boxer break down the business aspects on why the negotiations failed. I never say that because I'm never interested in that. That's business. That's something that should be private. You know, that's something that the dudes with the suits are locked in with doing, not really the boxer fans. Like, if they didn't expose so much about the business, we wouldn't be too concerned about it. But since so many fights are not happening, now we seem to be more concerned about it. And with this scenario, I feel like this fight of this magnitude, which is one of the most desired fights in all of boxing, I feel like Terrence Crawford specifically needed to step up and say something. And I was glad that Terrence Crawford stepped up and said something, because all we had was some reporters and a bunch of content creators making content on it. We didn't have no real information. And I wanted to hear something specifically for him. I mean, I would love to hear from Errol. Like, I heard the Errol recorded thing that is supposed to be leaked. I don't believe in leak stuff, because anything that's leaked, a lot of things that are leaked, conversations that are leaked like that, are leaked on purpose. You know, even if you change the quality of the audio, it still feels like it was leaked on purpose. You know, it's like it's like music. You know, people say, oh, you know, this artist's music was leaked and everybody's going crazy, but it's actually promoting your upcoming album that we don't know what's coming out. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of artists do that. And, you know, Haymon he's from the music industry, you know, if we're not going to hear from Bud Crawford at this point to solve all of this, and I know this doesn't solve anything because you can clearly see from the tweets that people were saying underneath Terrence Crawford's announcement that he was going to talk about what happened and the failure of this fight. You can see that people already made their mind up. People made their mind up months and even years ago on whose fault it was going to be if this fight failed. And if the fighter that you feel is the reason why this fight fell apart, like if you feel that Terrence Crawford ducked Errol Spence, if you really truly believe that, don't you want at least the man to at least speak and defend himself? That's my stance. Don't you want to at least, at the very least, do you want him to at least explain himself? Because everything you're receiving, everybody you're receiving your information from, it's not from Bud. It's not from Spence. And look at the comments. Read the comments because I'm sure people are doing it right now while I'm talking. They don't want to hear you talk. They come in, they leave their comments, and they be on their way. They leave their emojis. That's what weak people do. They leave their emojis and they bounce because they don't care about information. They don't care about what is true, or you know what I'm saying? They care about their stance and nothing more. At least this man told the story. I said, let's listen to Bud. All right. I would love to listen to Spence, but I already know that Spence is different because Bud is the free agent that's coming over to the PBC. So it's a little bit different. Spence is working with Al Haymon, who he's always been working with Al Haymon. And Al never publicly speaks. So I'm not expecting to hear anything from Al Haymon. I would love to hear from Al Haymon, but I'm not expecting Al Haymon to talk. I would like Spence to express himself as well, but I really wanted to hear it from Terrence Crawford because Terrence Crawford is the only one that is the one that backed out and took another fight elsewhere. So I want to hear from you. And he gave us that tonight. But before he even gave that up, and even while he was speaking, you guys know, look at the comments, emojis, people saying disrespectful shit. You know why? Because they don't want to hear you. They already made their mind. And what these people that, even some of them is in this comments right here, they don't want to hear your side of the story because it contradicts what I want to believe. It's not even like that. It contradicts the truth. It contradicts what I want to believe, and it contradicts what I already been told by the opposition. If you guys get what I'm saying. I tweeted this early. Look at the comments. This man wants to explain himself on why this fight didn't happen. And the people are like, nah, you ducked, you ran. That's it. It's all your fault. Don't know any details at all. We don't know a lot more. There's still a lot of things we don't know because listening to this tonight, I don't think Bud is comfortable sitting in front of the camera and talking. I don't think Bud is the most talkative person. He even said it. I don't think Bud is the most articulate person and the most, you know what I'm saying? I just don't think he's great at doing that. He looked very uncomfortable sitting in front of that camera tonight, you know? But he was forced to have to explain himself because there are people that are trying to damage his credibility and his career. He had to speak for himself. But he spoke for himself tonight. And from what I got out of it, I'm listening to him. He starts off the conversation, said, look, I realized that he was trying to be as respectful to Al while telling the truth, right? He started off saying how, listen, he spoke to Al, several times directly about how this fight was going to go. He said I was a cool guy. You know, he kept saying that. I was a cool guy trying to be real respectful. The first issue, what did he say his first issue was? There was a middleman that was involved that I didn't know him. He was involved in my camp, but he wanted this middleman to represent me. I didn't know who this person was. I didn't trust this person. I had no idea who this person was, but this person was involved in this negotiation, and I did not trust this person. I don't know who he was, but he was supposedly on my team. That was the first red flag. What did I tell y'all the other day when I made a video about this? I said, from what he's saying about the transparency, it sounds like the Tim Witherspoon, Don King situation, where Don King hired like a manager or something that was family to him, to Tim Witherspoon, and the majority of that $1 million purse, or I don't know how much money, but I know it was a lot of money, and Tim Witherspoon only walked away making 50 grand for the fight. It sounded like one of those situations, like, yo, I don't even know who this guy is. Why is he a part of this? So that was the first issue, right? The second issue was he basically said there was no guarantee. He never was given a guarantee. So I know there's probably people that are saying that he lied about that. He's saying was never given a guarantee. That was also what was reported, which now that we heard from him, what he's saying is consistent with what was being reported previously. And I'm talking about reported on major boxing, made by major boxing journalists, media. He's basically saying like, yo, there was no guarantee. And I had a problem with it. So I had gotten a couple offers from 2 other companies that was willing to put $25 million a piece. Now, I found that very interesting because when I hear that, it reminds me of the Wilder and Joshua situation when the $50 million thing came, to the forefront. Anthony Joshua said in an interview, like, yo, I would love to get $50 million for a fight. Deontay Wilder said, yo, you got 24 hours to agree to this. 50 million is up there on the table. Anthony Joshua fell back. He didn't take the deal, right? This is around that time where Eddie offered Wilder to fight. I think it was like, I don't know, it was like 12.5 million. Then it was like 15 million. Wilder fell back from that. Wilder turned around, offered 50 million. We found out the money, we didn't know where the money was coming from. It was an escrow. It was a whole bunch of mess, right? Remember that. Then we found out that Frank Warren, something about, but there was money on the table that Anthony Joshua fell back from, right? This is not the DAZN deal. This is the one in the middle. He fell back from that one. Yet Wilder supporters was like, yo, my man ducked you. Joshua ducked you. But Crawford is saying here, yo, look, I got 2 companies, 2 investors that's willing to put 25 million on the table for us. What's up, Al? Well, this is another thing. He's calling Spence directly. He's calling Spence and Al directly. And they're saying Al's not with it because he's not trying to deal business with anybody else but his own brand, which is understandable. That's a business thing. And Spence is like, he's loyal to Al, so he's not going to make a move without Al being a part of it. Right? So that was the second issue, but that didn't stop it. And revert back to what I'm saying. It's funny how people had an issue for Joshua backing out the 50 million, but have a problem with Bud. And they will say, because I'm going to tell you, they're going to say that 25 million is funny. Whatever money he's talking about is funny. If it's BLK Prime or whoever, that money is funny. That's what they're going to say. They're saying that the BLK 10 million is funny. It might be, but my thing, the difference between me and them and everybody else is that I like to sit back and see how shit play out. I don't know if that money is funny. It could be. Do they really have the money? I would hope so. I mean, if Bud is going to skip out on a fight and take a contract for $10 million, I would hope that is true and is real. But it's no different from the Wilder situation where he just popped up with $50 million and told AJ to agree to it within 24 hours. They supported that, but they don't support. So anyway, let's move on. So he kept talking like, listen, that didn't stop everything. Me and Al was still on the phone. I mean, look, I'm telling you guys, but you guys heard it. Some of you guys didn't. Some of y'all missed it. He still was going on back and forth with Al, trying to work everything out. You know, and unfortunately, they couldn't work it out. They couldn't work it out. For whatever reason, Bud wasn't happy with what he was getting. He didn't feel secure in this situation. He didn't feel secure about it. But when he said, yo, I am the one that's pushing and trying to make the first, he's the free agent. He's communicating with both Errol and Bob. And he's being inactive while doing so because he's just trying to make this fight work. He hasn't even fought. He's rusty. He's trying to make it work. So whatever reason, it didn't work out. It just didn't work out. As much as we wanted to work out, he's basically telling you like, listen, this contract is a shit contract. I said this to y'all the other day. If we're basing it off what was reported to mainstream boxing media, this don't sound like a good contract. I said to you guys the other day, there's nothing about this contract that said, wow. Yet you guys crucified him based on nothing. You guys didn't have anything. I didn't have anything. None of us had anything. All we knew is that he said he was going to fight this year. Whether it's Spence or someone else, I am going to fight this year. I'm not going to go a whole year waiting around for y'all. And that's exactly what he did. He signed to take this David Avenesian fight. Now, am I looking forward to him fighting David Avenesian? Nah, I'm looking forward to seeing him back in the ring. But am I looking forward to like seeing someone that I know, Bud and Avenesian? This is no disrespect for Avenesian because I know him well. I'm very familiar with him and what he's capable of. He is a highly ranked fighter. He has some decent wins under his belt. I have no problem with him. I was just telling you guys that this is a guy that I would have liked to see Conor Ben face, you know, or Ortiz or whatever. This is a guy that I felt like those new coming guys should fight. So do I care for the fight? No, I'm not going to sit here and act like, yo, Crawford is fighting David Avenesian. Yo, this is going to be crazy. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to support Bud because I'm a fan of Bud. I'm going to support him. I am. I'm going to pay for the pay-per-view and I'm going to support Bud. But this is not a fight that I'm looking for. Now, when he said why he didn't fight Bouts or Ortiz, he said those names didn't come up. I didn't particularly like that because I didn't know what that meant. You know, it kind of reminded me of when Terrence Crawford confronted Errol Spence at that event. And Crawford asked, like, listen, you guys told me I needed a belt. Now I got a belt. I'm a welterweight. I want a belt. Let's fight next. And then it got to a point where Spence was like, you know, I talked to Al, you know, and your name didn't come up. Everybody else's name came up except yours. And that kind of reminded me of that situation because it's like, yo, if you're not going to fight Spence, We would love to see you fight Virgil Ortiz or Jerron Boots Ennis. We would love that. But I don't know the details on that contract. And I personally believe that both Virgil Ortiz and Jerron Boots Ennis are fighters that they're not two-dumps. Those are like fights that you really need to be in full camp for. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are high-level fights, including Errol Spence. But I think those are the fights too. This is some fights that you really prepare for. Not trying to diss David Avenesian, but it's David Avenesian. Yo, if Terrence Bud Crawford were to lose to David Avenesian, that would probably be the biggest upset that we've seen since Joshua and Andy Ruiz. Let's be real about it. Can we just be honest here and stop the fanboy shit? Get out of here with them damn emojis for a second, and let's talk like real adults. I love Bud, but I'm going to keep it real. Like, I'm not looking forward to that fight, but I am looking forward to seeing Bud back in the ring. But what I don't want to do is just not be inactive. Being inactive is like the worst thing you can do. Even if you're not like fighting the top tier dudes, you just shouldn't be inactive, you know? So with that all being said, this interview gave us a little bit more information, and he kind of just doubled down on what we knew. The reason why this interview is important is because he's confirming what we heard and adding more to it. All right. I don't like the fact that the fight didn't happen, but I understand that this is prize fighting at the end of the day. As much as you want to give the fans what they want, you still have to make a return on it. You have to make money. You want to make money, especially with something as dangerous as boxing. So I understand that concept. But as a fan, I'm just overall disappointed that the fight is not happening. And I don't believe that the fight is going to happen. I don't believe that it's going to happen. You know? I want to talk one thing too. Why isn't Virgil Ortiz petitioning for that mandatory position? I see a lot of people on the internet have been talking about that because of Stan Jonas petitioning, and then you got Jerron Bennett and his Boots petitioning, and then Keith Thurman as well. You know, he's pushing for the fight as well for those 3 belts. I want to know why Virgil Ortiz is not pushing to fight Errol Spence. I know why. Well, I mean, I know how Mr. Golden Boy kind of move. He moves in a way where he's very good matchmaker. He's all about timing. I learned that when he was dealing with Canelo. He's dealing with Jaime Munguia. He's dealing with Ryan Garcia. And he's dealing with that with Virgil Ortiz. I think Mr. Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya, is probably the best matchmaker in this sport. You know, before he puts his fighters in the ring with someone, he wants to make sure they have a great chance of winning. Okay. And if there is some sort of danger here, the money has to be worth it. I said the same thing about Jake Paul the other day. I said, you guys are throwing out a bunch of names out here. And I said, you guys don't even realize that Jake Paul these guys are not taking dives. It's about the timing. It's about the matchmaking. He has some great matchmakers on his team. So I would love for Bud to fight a Virgil Ortiz. You know, I would love for him to fight a Jerron Boots Ennis. I already told you guys, I don't think these guys are going to volunteer to fight Jerron Boots Ennis. I just don't think they're going to do it. I don't think anyone is going to do it. You know? Super, super, super high risk, very low reward. I don't think anybody's going to do it. I think when Jerron fights for a title, it's because he's the mandatory and these guys are stuck and they don't have a choice but to do it. And that says, and I mean that by Crawford and Spence or Virgil Ortiz, because I believe that those guys should be fighting first before fighting for a title. All right. So look, he gave us a little bit more clarity tonight. And he basically told his side of the story. I'm still disappointed the fight didn't happen, but it doesn't change anything that I feel, because I never felt like it was the fighter's fault from jump. I didn't feel like it was Spence's fault. I listened, a lot of people are pulling up old interviews between the two. These two have a very great mutual respect for one another. And you can tell when Bud keeps talking about the conversations that they both had. These two have a lot of respect for each other, regardless of the rivalry that they have a lot of respect for each other. I knew that if this fight never happened, it was going to be because of the business. The fight and the ball is in PBC's court. It was in PBC's court, and they didn't deliver. All right, they just didn't. I think that Terrence Crawford, even though he doesn't, I know he's not the biggest superstar. He's not Canelo, he's not AJ, he's not Wilder, he's not Fury, Mayweather, Pacquiao, those big names. He's not any of those guys. But I still feel that he is one of the most respected fighters in the sport. And I think a guy like that, you want to make things work for him. You don't want to start it off with setting him up with some random dude that has no business being involved in this fight. This is according to Bud. All right. If he feels like, listen, there's a guy that Al tried to link me up with here, and I'm trying to figure out what's his involvement in here. I don't trust this. I don't feel comfortable with this. Based on the history of this sport, do you really blame him? Do you blame him? If there's someone that Al, who this is the first time Bud is dealing with Al, why is this guy involved in my team in making this fight? Again, I would love to hear from Al. We'll never hear from Al. I would like to hear from Spence, but Spence is aligned with the PBC, and he's already in contract with them, and Al is going to take care of his fighter. Also, I want to make another point. This is the first time we really had a fighter, or maybe not the first time, but this is one of the first time maybe that I ever heard a fighter really go into a detail about an Al Haymon negotiation. And I think the only reason why that we got that is because of the fact that Bud is not in contract with Al Haymon. Most of the fighters in the PBC, they're very limited on what they're allowed to say. You can tell when the questions are asked about future fights, potential fights, and they all give the same answer. They shout out Al Haymon. They say, I got to talk to my team, all of that stuff. So I was very shocked at Crawford when I saw him post that he was going to talk about it. I was actually kind of excited. So I'm not excited, but surprised that Bud Crawford was going to even talk about this, because I didn't know how that would work for Team Haymon, and I know a few fighters that, win against the team and it didn't really look too good for them. I know that Andre has never been able to work out a fight with the PBC or Al Haymon fighters since then. All right. So, I mean, that's all I really needed to say. I just don't believe that any of the slander that he received is warranted, and I say that when it comes to Spence too. I think a lot of it has to do with the PBC and the business of this. I think the business ruined this fight. I think it was bad business. If what was said by Bud and what was said by reporters is true, I think it was just bad business. I think a fighter of his caliber needs to be dealt with in a different way. You know, no, he's not the biggest money maker, but he is a money maker. And to be honest, it would draw the most money. In my opinion, I think it would have drawn the most money that either Errol or Bud has made in their careers. That's a fact. You know what I'm saying? That's a fact. You can't argue that. I told you guys the other day, stop shitting on Bud, because Bud will be Spence's greatest win if they were to fight and Spence were to win. It would be his greatest name on his resume if Spence were to win. And it goes the same for Bud fans. All right. Stop shitting on Spence, because if Bud did fight him and beat him, that would be the best name on Bud's resume. Stop it. I said the other day, I said a lot the other day. I keep saying that. I said the other day, like, yo, I'm offended by the amount of hatred y'all shown Bud this last week or so. I just kind of disgusted by it. I've never seen anything like this. I remember maybe Pacquiao and Mayweather. It's the only other time that I can compare it to. But Mayweather and Pacquiao's fight was so big that it didn't really matter. You had your hardcore Pacquiao fans, you had your hardcore Mayweather fans. And I don't believe that a lot of those people weren't really fans. I think a lot of those people were influenced by other things on why they had their biases. But Bud is one of the greatest fighters in our generations. And I think you don't treat a fighter like that. You just don't. You just don't. You don't tear a man down like that. And I haven't seen anybody do it in recent years. You just don't tear a guy down like that. One period I could say compare that to is when Tim Bradley beat Manny Pacquiao in the first fight on points. I never seen someone get teared down that way before. I just don't think that's right. And to see that people are online, whether it's, social media, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, I've seen people put in overtime to try to crush this man's entire catalog and his career. I just don't understand, how do you do that? This is one of the best fighters that we've seen. People compare this guy with other guys from other generations. I just don't understand. I've never seen it like this. And when I have, it was with fighters on a much, higher popularity level. I don't know. This thing is crazy to me. Terrence Bud Crawford, I just remembered that he said that he tried to talk Al Haymon into us, as in him, Spence, and Al, to have a sit down together and negotiate this fight. And he said that Al told him that that's never happened in the history of the sport. That's crazy, because I'm thinking to myself, what other way is better? What other way is better to do it? Let's sit at the table like gentlemen, shake each other's hands, Sign the contracts. I bring my lawyer. You bring yours. And we sit down and talk this shit out. Let's work it out between us face to face. And Al said, according to Terrence Bud Crawford, and I don't believe Terrence is lying because this would be defamation. I mean, anybody that knows anything, Al does. So why go out your way and just make a bunch of lies? I mean, you already have a pending lawsuit going on with Mr. Aram and Top Rank. You want Al Haymon problems as well? I don't think so. He said that I wanted to sit down with Spence and Al and make the fight work. And Al said, no, this is not the way it works. This never happens this way. So when he was talking transparency, that's all the transparency you need. Let's talk. Let's stop this internet stuff. Let's talk in person. Let's stop talking on the phone. I'm talking on the phone with Errol. Talking on the phone with Al. Al's talking to Errol. Let's talk in a room together. And that couldn't happen. Why can't that happen for a fight this big, this demanding? Like, this is the pure, you know what you do? I know the casual fights make the biggest money. You don't ruin the boxing purist fights. You do not do that. Because no matter how shitty this sport is, because of the politics, we stick around. The casuals, they go somewhere else. Once it gets boring, they can go right back to wherever they came from. The one thing you never, ever, ever do is destroy a fight that the purists want. You accommodate the fighters as best as you can. I would love to hear from Al Haymon. We're not going to, but I would love for that to happen. I would love for it to happen. It's not going to happen because I want to know why. I want to hear from the business standpoint why this didn't work out. I want to hear from someone that is directly involved in making this fight happen. Talk about why this fight didn't happen. But we don't have that. We have a fighter, and you have two fighters that's normally just tweeting shit and nothing more. And then you have a bunch of media personalities and content creators that's just eating off of it. You know, listen, these guys didn't even want to hear what Bud had to say tonight. Their mind was going to be made up. Even if Bud came in with paperwork, they would have said the paperwork is fake. They would have threw a bunch of cap emojis and a bunch of duck emojis because that's what they do. That's what they do. That's all they know how to do. Just throw a bunch of emojis up there. And don't know a goddamn thing. They don't know anything. They're eating off you. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that, man. I know you guys left a million comments. I promise I'm gonna go through and scroll through some of these things. You know, I know there was gonna be a lot of Spence people here. You know, Bud people here and boxing people here. You know, because there is a difference. There's Bud people here. And no, listen, let me close this out. I am fully aware that there's a lot of Terrence Bud posers out there. There's a lot of people that don't really like Terrence Bud Crawford. I know that there's a lot of people that support Terrence Crawford simply because he is the forefront guy for the anti-PBC people. I am fully aware of that. Trust me, I'm very aware of what's going on here. I'm aware of that. All right. But I'm also aware that there's not a lot of real Spence supporters. You know, a lot of these guys are overnight Spence supporters, and a lot of them are not really Spence supporters. They're PBC supporters, and they have agendas too. I'm fully aware of what's going on. Don't ever think that I'm not aware. I know what's going on. I see what's going on. It's bigger than just Spence and Bud. It's bigger than boxing, you know. What's up, Eric, man? This Eric, my man Eric is a big Spence fan, man. I see your shit. I see what you be saying. Thank you for the donation. He says, since Bud talk guarantee, what guarantee would have got Bud to sign? I think Bud is capped because I've never heard of Al doing somebody and negotiate. There's a lot of people that's not happy with Al, man. There's a lot of people that's left Al. Danny Jacobs went to Matchroom. I know Adrian Broner has recently left, but you know, that's Broner. I know that Gary Russell Jr. was expressing some of his frustrations there with Al, trying to get fights done, not being able to get fights done over there for him. That's just a few on the top of the head. I'm sure if you guys want to leave comments, let me know in the comments, because not everybody that's with Al is happy with Al. But then again, there's a lot of fighters that are not allowed to say that they're not allowed to talk about the details of their fight in their contract, in their contract. So if that's all you're doing to defend Errol and crucify Bud, which you have been doing, Eric, because I read your messages, that's all you have. You really don't have anything. You know, what we do have is what some mainstream reporters said, what Bud said tonight, what Errol and Bud have tweeted. That's all we got. And that's why I told you guys in the beginning, you guys are doing too much. Not you, Eric, specifically. I'm just saying in general. What you guys are doing is too much to not have enough information. You don't have enough information to crucify someone the way that you're doing it. That's my stance. You don't have the information. You don't know. You like the way that some people are giving it up, and you're running with it because you like the way it sounds to you. But you don't know the facts. We know what Bud said now. That's what we know tonight. But before tonight, what did we know? We know that Errol tweeted a few things. We knew that Bud tweeted a few things. We knew that a few mainstream reporters on ESPN or Boxing Scene, you know, what they said in certain articles. And that's it. That's all we knew, man. That's all we knew. And many people shitted on one of our generation's greatest fighters. You know, even let's just throw in Floyd Mayweather Jr. Let's just throw him in a pot. I'm sure that Mayweather Jr., Floyd Mayweather, I'm sure that he knows way more than what we know, right? I'm sure in some way that he's somewhat involved with this fight in the PBC and Al Haymon. But there are people that tell you Floyd got no involvement in this fight. Based on what? What are we basing on? Charles Edward Cheese, yo. Charles Edward Cheese says, what's goody? Can you be a fanboy and a fan of the sport? I think so. I definitely have my favorite fighters, but I'm here for all the bouts. I do blame Bud. The writing been on the wall at welterweight, and twice now he chose wrong. Facts. Let me know the 2 times so I can talk on that. But always thank you for the donation. And trust me, this is one of my guys here that is my biggest supporters. He is my biggest supporter when it comes to the donations. And he totally disagrees with what I'm saying, but he respects what I'm saying at the same time, you know? And this is what I mean. I'm always going to tell you how I feel, and no one can ever pay me to tell you how I feel, you know, or tell me or pay me to tell you or spin a narrative. It would never happen. All right. But his stance is Bud dropped the ball, and that's fine. If you believe that Bud is at wrong with this, I'm not defending Bud. What I'm defending are the people that is trying to destroy his name based on you feel that he's wrong. I know Charles said the writing is on the writing is on a wall, but it's really not on a wall because it's nothing but a bunch of he said, she said shit. It's his truth, there's Arrow's truths, and it's the real truth. And I don't know what the real truth is. None of us do. All right, but Bud at least cleared up his story. Whether you think it's enough or not, that's totally up to you. All right. What's good, Woo? Thank you for the donation. And Charles, thank you again, brother. You already know. Mad love, yo. Thank you. Appreciate you. What's good, Woo? What's good, Woo? PBC once supposed to democratize boxing and bring the elite fighters to the mainstream through these TV deals. Maybe the boxing economy really just can't support all financial demands in the case of Spence Crawford. You know what, Woog? Hit me up. Let's talk on your channel. All right. Let's talk about this because this is actually something that I've thought about myself, and I would definitely love to talk about it on your channel. All right. Guys, make sure you guys subscribe to Woog and his boxing channel. He is a breakdown channel. Check him out. He does a good job. But I would love to join your channel and we could talk about this, have this discussion because I actually was recently thinking about this and I wanted to speak on it myself. But yes, I agree. I don't even know if the money is really there, you know, and I think that's part of the reason why the PBC are forcing all of these pay-per-views, you know. All right. And by the way, I am not an anti-PBC channel neither, because I don't want that to come across like I'm just anti-PBC. I'm not anti-PBC. But I feel that a lot of PBC fighters are not active enough. I also feel that I think the pay-per-views are just not warranted. You know, I think it looks desperate, and I think this year it showed with the low amount of pay-per-view numbers. You know, I didn't make a goddamn video. I didn't even bring up Wilder and his failed pay-per-view. I didn't bring it up. Why? For what? For what? You know, I mean, I already know that a certain group, yeah, it makes a certain group of fans look bad, but at the end of the day, it's a failing pay-per-view number, and that's that. It exposed them. It doesn't expose me. I'm not a pay-per-view channel. You know, I don't care about those numbers like that. I think they're important for the sport, yes, and for the fighters, but while they're doing 75,000 pay-per-view buys, I mean, it wasn't a good fight. It was just a comeback fight. You know, does it expose? Does it really expose Wilder, or does it expose some of his extreme fans? I think it exposed some of his extreme fans. In a sense, it could expose Wilder because he's not the pay-per-view stars that his fans make him out to be. His fans make him out to be. Because at the end of the day, in America, it's really not, you know, I think Tank didn't do that well with his last pay-per-view too. You know, I don't know what the official numbers are, but yo, you know, at the end of the day, people are willing to pay, but they're not going to just keep paying for these little, you know, bullshit fights. You know, and it's showing in the results of these pay-per-views. Johnny Boy, what's up, man? I respect everything you said on this live. You got a new subscriber and supporter. Good work, fam. Thank you. Appreciate you. And I hope you enjoyed the channel. And I want to say to you, new people, you're not gonna always like what I say. So, Johnny Boy, thank you for joining. And welcome to the community, you know. Uh, but you're not gonna always like what I say. All right. And you know why? Because I don't always defend every fighter that I support. You know, I might support them overall, like Bud, but I don't support everything he does or says. You know, I don't. And that's with everybody. That's with Canelo. That's with Floyd Mayweather. That's with Errol, Jamel Charlo, Anthony Joshua. I love a lot of these fighters, but I'm going to tell you how it is because I don't know any of these people personally. And even if I did, I would tell them I'll be the same way with them personally. I would. Uh Leaking. I don't know if it's leaking or lecking, but thank you for the donation. He said, but speaking facts, everything he said lined up with what we've been hearing from both sides. Never heard of a fight this large having no guarantees. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, you want to accommodate a fighter on that level, like he's a top guy. You want to make him feel that way. And I don't feel like they did a good job there based on what he says. You know, that's my point. You know, that's my whole point with that. All right. Shout out to Charles again. Charles re-up and he says, Charles, thank you, man. I appreciate the donations. I really do. Re-upping with Bob Arum was one. Not doing the Devin Haney and doing whatever is necessary to us to show us he is the one is wait and doing whatever is necessary to show us he the one is the other. I appreciate Bud talent for sure, but also he said he don't need to promote himself. It's not this job, like bro. Lastly, what we drinking? I'm drinking Jameson, man. You know, I have some good stuff in there, but I don't want to waste it. I have some good stuff, but I don't want to waste it, man. I bought me a bottle of Clase Azul. I got me this bourbon that was made upstate. All right, I bought it at a market the other day. It's pretty good. It has like a walnut flavor. I don't know the name, but I didn't even open it yet. I'm actually saving it for my dad because he likes bourbons. All right, but thank you, Charles. Yo, this is my issue with the Bob Arum thing because I said this too in my own videos, and I said to you guys, I said I wish he didn't resign with Bob because you know all the other fighters are with the PBC, but I don't think it's that simple. I think when it comes to the Bob Arum thing, Bob Arum gave him a great guarantee for those fights under that contract when he re-upped. He was getting like 4 million a fight, and he wasn't even fighting guys like that we really cared to see him fighting. You know what I'm saying? We wanted the names that's over in the PBC. And that's not a diss to those fighters because some of those fighters were good. You know, he fought Kell Brook over there. I mean, he fought Porter, he fought Brook, but outside those two that have names, he fought Cat Velasquez. He fought Amir Khan. You know, I mean, well, Khan has a name too, but let's say like Eggy Cat Velasquez and Joseph Benavides or whatever, you know, or you know, I don't know what point was the re-up. Cat Velasquez was part of the re-up, I believe, and Cat Velasquez, you know, to get 4 million to fight him, I know that 4 million that he was getting per fight was more than what PBC was giving their fighters, right? Guaranteed. Um, and since paper, see, that's the whole thing with the business. I'm thinking like, yo, since Bud is not really a pay-per-view star, that's no shade. I'm just being factual. He's not a pay-per-view star. I don't think most of these guys are pay-per-view stars if we're being real. You know, I think certain fights make great pay-per-view revenue. But I'm saying the matchup itself, like Wilder and Fury. Wilder and Fury makes a lot of money. Wilder and Hellenius makes no money. Get what I'm saying? Like, I don't think these fighters are really like. Shout out to Boxing Beats and Rhymes because he's a guy that like makes a lot of videos and he drifts into the history and then drifts right back into the now. And he basically gives you examples like, yo, these guys are not really pay-per-view fighters. Like, they're not really A-side guys. They're self-promoting themselves by saying it. But to be honest, if you look at the numbers, their numbers are kind of poor based on history, which is true. Now, when it comes to Bud, why did he re-up with Top Rank? Well, I don't know what Bud had did in between. I don't know if he shopped around. When Bud was going to leave the last time, I don't know if he shopped around deals. We don't know that. None of us do. You know, I know that Eddie Hearn came out and said that he didn't really even try to pursue Bud because he felt the amount of money Bud would want versus the amount of money that he would make from Bud didn't really match. So he didn't even really pursue that. I've heard him say that in the interview. So with Top Rank, I think he stayed with Top Rank because of the amount of money that was guaranteed per fight. And Aaron said himself, like, yo, I'm losing money with this. Damn, my nose is mad stuffy, yo. I'm sorry, y'all. Damn. I've been talking like I probably sound crazy. I gotta listen to this later. But yeah, I caught a cold yesterday. It's crazy. But yo, what was I saying? So I think Bud stayed because of the guarantee. Um, and even if you stay with Top Rank, you know, I still feel that fights can be made. You know, I don't even like using the promotion, the promoter thing, and the network thing as an excuse because at the end of the day, a fight of this caliber, you know, if Bob tells you, yo, I can make the fight and you believe him and you sign that contract, I mean, you know, like, is he wrong? You know, I don't think that Bud is great at promoting himself. You know, that was one of the comments you made. I don't think Bud is good at, I don't even think Spence is good at that. You know, Spence is kind of chill. He's kind of like a country dude, bro. He not really like with all of that, you know. I think guys like Tank and Ryan Garcia and you know, Tyson Fury, you know what I'm saying? I think they're just better at promoting themselves. You know, Adrian Broner. I don't think Bud or Spence are like, they're kind of boring as far as personality, as far as like hyping up a fight. Again, you know, I'm watching Bud just now on that camera on Instagram, and he seemed like very uncomfortable sitting in front of that camera. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Let me know. I said that earlier. He doesn't look like he comfortable with doing that, you know, because that's not even like his thing. You know, he seemed like a real chill dude. Yo, I wasn't even comfortable with doing this when I started this channel, you know, but I got used to it. But if you look at my old videos, I look very uncomfortable sitting in front of the camera. I don't like sitting in front of cameras talking. Johnny Boy says, just to switch topics for a quick second, I'm curious of what you think about Bebo and Ramirez fight and how do you see it? That breakdown, in fact, I'm going to do my film study tomorrow because we're getting kind of close to that fight. Is that fight this weekend? Let me check right now. Hope that fight is not this weekend because I'm not even ready to talk about it yet. I'm not even ready to talk about that fight yet. Damn, it is this weekend. Damn. All right. Was it 11:42? All right, I'm gonna start doing my film study, man. What is it? It's Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll have it to you. If I can't get it out by tomorrow night, I'll have it to you guys by Thursday. I'll spend the whole day tomorrow just doing film study. I'm sorry about that. Damn, that came quick. But I do have to do a breakdown on that fight. And thank you again, Johnny, for the donating and all that. All right. Message for the day. If you follow me on Twitter, I've been tweeting about the Takeoff shooting. All right. Rest in peace to Takeoff. You know, I'm tired, you know, I'm tired of talking about hip hop artists getting killed, but rest in peace, Takeoff. Um, Shakur Stevenson was standing right next to him when he was shot. Okay, there's a video out there floating around. These guys got to get it together, man. I understand that he was at an event. Jay Prince, I believe his son was his birthday party. Yo, listen, if you're gonna have that kind of event, man, protect your guests by, being strict at the doors. Don't let anybody just walk in with guns. And don't stand around at dice games. Just don't stand around at dice games, especially when that kind of money is involved. This hip hop culture is not a good one in a lot of ways, and they lead to a lot of people getting killed. You guys see the news. Even if you are not a fan of hip hop, you see the news. All right, these guys are getting that. Even if you're not counting the mainstream artists, there's a hip hop artist getting shot at every week, every other week, sometime a few days apart. Shakur Stevenson, please just be careful. I understand you're at your manager's. Jay Prince is an event, but you got to be careful, man. Dice games. Dice games. I ain't even gonna say anything about dice games because I don't want to say anything about personal experiences, but dice games and that kind of money, when dudes is losing big money and they're getting, you're a celebrity, it's not good, man. Stay away from them games on the street. And I know that wasn't on the street, but it might as well have been on the street. I'm not gonna get into how I feel because this is not the platform for that. As much as I would like to be that guy, I I keep it real on here, but I hold back a lot on a lot of things. And if I said how I really felt, one day I will. And when I do, you'll understand why I held back. But one day I'll get to that point where I can keep it 100% real. I mean, I keep it 100% now, but I hold back on a lot of things that I want to say. All right. I try to be very professional in here, but rest in peace to Takeoff, man. And just be careful. Like I said on Twitter, be aware of your surroundings, man. I went out for my birthday and I saw something brewing early and I pulled everybody out of there. I said, let's go. What? Nah, let's go. And when I see something brewing, I'm not going to wait till it gets there. I'm not going to wait to see how it escalates. Because you don't want to be that innocent person standing around. And I got out of there. And guess what? The moment as I'm walking out, something happened. All right? That's all I'm going to say. But my group was out of there. We were the first one out the door. Be careful out there. Please, people, if you are listening to this video, be careful out there, please. It can happen. Anything can happen to anyone, anytime, anywhere. You get into a car accident, your building can blow up. Anything can happen. A plane could crash into you. Anything can happen. But listen, if you can just be a little bit more aware of what's going on out there, all right, in the times that we're living in crazy times. If you see something, focus up, make a move, make a decision. Standing around in dice games where, a lot of money is being spent, a lot of money is being lost and tensions and people's, pride is flaring and just you shouldn't be standing around dice games, man. Dice games is no good. Go back to Big L. Rest in peace to Big L. I actually listened to Casualties to a Dice Game. Look up that song. Big L, Casualties to a Dice Game is one of my favorite Big L tracks from back in the day, back in like 98. All right. One of my favorite storytelling rap songs. All right. Check that out. All right. Harlem Legend. Anyway, I'm out of here, man. Y'all have a good night, man. And I'm gonna definitely get into that damn B-roll Zerto breakdown. I'm gonna do my film study right away. I got y'all. All right. All right. So listen, hit that thumbs up, please. Everybody here, hit that thumbs up on your way out. For me, everybody. Oh, it's 135 of you. Everybody hit that, please. And if you are new, subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Yo, peace.